I'm pretty sure you've seen, when you have the divorce conversations like I do, you see a lot of hot takes. You see a lot of young influencers talking about a whole bunch of things. Like a lot of them aren't even married when they're talking about divorces. And there's this one take, and I want to get your expert opinion on, is where these Alpha Bro podcasts are saying or claim that 80% of women initiate the divorce. So hence women are the problem and the reason why marriages are failing. So from your years of experience, what is your take when you hear that?
I mean, so well, what I like to do is I like to gather information from as many different sources as I can. And then through that cross section of information, like see if you can find some useful information. So can you draw any like conclusions? Can you formulate any hypothesis from that? Mm-hmm. So what I see is, number one, women do file for divorce more frequently than men do by a pretty substantial margin. Mm-hmm. It's also statistically shown that people, meaning would necessarily now need to be women, tend to ponder the divorce for a long time. It's very rare that people say, I want to be divorced overnight. And then you have to think about if they're waiting a long time, like what are they struggling with? Like why are they taking so long to make that decision? And what's the reasoning? And I feel like, you can take a look at some of the prime causes for divorce, right? Affairs, abuse, finances, there's a bunch of other things, but I think a lot of those, the abuse is its own thing. Because if somebody is an abuser, you don't really, I've always said, like, look, you have to distinguish, is this a relationship problem that caused the failure of the relationship, or is it a people problem, a person problem? Mm-hmm. If somebody has, a serious drug addiction, you can't fix that for them. That's not your relationship's fault. That and even there's something underlying that, but you can't fix that. That's not the relationship thing. The relationship things you can fix, the people things they need to kind of tackle on their own. Mm-hmm. But what I'm finding is what I'm hearing more and more from women is like the lack of the engagement and the lack of the partnership and the lack of, and I always draw it even deeper than that. This kind of like draws back to gender roles. So we've been promoting women and feminism to be strong woman. She can do anything. She's going to be the neurosurgeon. She's going to be the CEO. She's going to do it all. She's going to make millions of dollars. She's going to be heard. She's going to voice her opinion and not hold back. Mm-hmm. We are generating strong women, and bravo, I applaud that. Mm-hmm. But on the flip side of that, and I think the gender roles are evolving, right? Now we're getting out of those traditional gender roles. And as we evolve out of those traditional gender roles, like, now maybe the guy should be filling in the other gaps, because now it's not you come home. Like I remember when I grew up, my mom worked part-time. My dad worked 70 hours a week. He made the bulk of the money. And when I came home, mom was there. She was preparing meals. She was taking me to ball games and stuff like that. But what if that's flipped?
Right.
If you're seeing that more and more frequently now, what if that's flipped? Mm-hmm. If that's flipped, but now the guys still have the instinct of, I grew up with my mom preparing meals. I grew up with my mom taking me to ball games. I grew up with my mom, all these things. And now we've been socialized to think, well, those are mom things, but they're not mom things. They're parent things. They're partner things. They're people who are in a partnership. That's the things that they do together. Mm-hmm. It doesn't need to be exactly 50-50. We don't have to take every single task in the relationship and cut it down the middle 50-50. But if you're starting to get to, 70-30, 80-20, 90-10, she's out there killing it, doing all these things. And we're just thinking, I go to work and I come home and I check out. And I think as guys, I know this is going to sound like a little stereotypical, but I think as guys, we tend to be less introspective. We tend to bury our head in the sand a little bit more.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. So we'll come home from work every day. Okay, is dinner ready? Okay, I'm going to bed. Like not engage on all the stuff and not be like super, super aware of all the stuff that's going on around us. Mm-hmm. And I think that women are more in tune with that. And I think that women are out there chasing their dreams. They're killing it. They're making the money, and they're still doing a lot of the other stuff because they were also raised to still do a lot of the other stuff too. And now they're saying, hey, wait a second. How long am I going to be able to keep this up doing all this stuff? And I'm not saying every guy is bad and they're all not doing anything. That's not what I'm saying. But I'm saying these are the themes I'm seeing. So like now, women file more frequently. They take time to really think about it. We know those two things statistically, right? So what are they really thinking about? What are the things that are bothering them? And these are the themes that I'm seeing. The themes that I'm seeing is the lack of engagement in that true partnership. You know, and theoretically that could be on either side.
Absolutely. Yeah.
But that tends to be what I'm seeing. So what do we need to do as guys? What's the message? So I don't agree with that in terms of like, you know, women are the problem. They're just like it's like, oh, look, my wife blindsided me and like, you know, just file for divorce. A lot of times that's not the case. It's like, hey, you know, we should get some me time. Like, hey, can you pitch in with the kids? Like, hey, and if we want to rewind, I know this even just from me. When we had our first child, why did I automatically assume that mom was lining up daycare? Why did I automatically assume that she would be the contact with school? Why did I assume that automatically? I'm not a bad guy. Listen, I am 110 miles an hour, 110% with everything all the time. But why did I automatically assume that she was? And I asked myself that. I said, why? Why her? You know? Mm-hmm. One of her friends said to her a while ago, she said, you know, one of my divorced friends says it's actually, once I got divorced, it was actually better because I had time to myself.
Yeah.
Because on the weekend that dad had the kids. It wasn't me. Mm-hmm. I actually had a weekend that was me. And I thought about that. You know, she just told me sharing a story from one of her friends. And I was like, you know what? Why is it every weekend she's always engaged with everything? Sometimes I'm helping, but she's always engaged with everything. It's never just me. Mm-hmm. Why is it never just me? And I've also been the type that would grocery shop and you know, and do laundry and make meals and stuff like that. But why with the kids, why was it always just only her? And I decided at that point, once I had that epiphany, it's like, I'm going to change this. Mm-hmm. It's not her responsibility. These are our kids.
Yes.
This is our house. Mm-hmm. You know, I'm making our dinner or she's making our dinner, not just hers, not just the kids, not just mine. Mm-hmm. So I think what you're seeing is I think there's so much more to it to dissect than just that simple, like, hey, women file more frequently. They're the problem. Mm-hmm. It's so much deeper than that.
Yeah. And I don't think a lot of them know that unless they've been through it. Like, again, you deal with this every day. I went through divorce myself. And when I heard that stat, I'm like, well, I guess I'm the exception or the rarity because I filed because I tried everything to save the marriage. And, you know, I finally came to the realization that it's not going to work. But I left with the peace of mind knowing I tried everything. But there was so much more to like, I filed. It was like years of thinking about, okay, what do we need to do to save it? The counseling, let's try that. Invest 6 months in that. It didn't work. What can I do? Can I make sacrifices? There's so much more to it than just quitting. And I think a lot of the young men, what they're seeing on social media is these myths or like an idea of what divorce is without knowing the realities of it. And a lot of guys that I see in the comments are like, well, women quit. Like, you know, it's for life. And you quit. And I'm like, well, technically, for someone to file and tell their kids, mommy and daddy getting divorced, it's not quitting. It's a horrible decision to make, but they're kind of forced to because not all the time, but some of the times they've tried to save it or someone's dealing with the vice or let's go to counseling. Why should I go to counseling? You're the one with the problems. You know, it's always one-sided and not wanting to be like a team to get the marriage to grow. It's always someone blaming the other is what I've seen. And a lot of guys, I think they don't understand that. And they think maybe if I just pay the bills like dad did, like you said, come home, pay the bills. Yep. Everyone's got food in their tummies. They got clothes, brand new shoes. That's all. Hey, my job's done. And that's not going to cut it.